Good morning, everybody. So in today's video, we are going to do something special. We are going to make a Yule log. I've made something similar before, but not quite the same. I made jelly roll, but I've never made a Yule log. But I think they're fairly similar. So that's what we're doing in today's video. So to start, I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees. And then I'm going to take one of these bowls and we're going to measure out the dry ingredients. So we need, let me see here. A third of a cup of flour. And since I have my sifter out, I'm just going to sift it. Okay, let's do the cocoa powder. We need about a quarter of a cup of cocoa powder. We're also going to sift that. Cocoa powder has a lot of lumps in it. Okay. Then we're going to put in some baking powder. It says half a teaspoon. Half a teaspoon of baking powder. A quarter of a teaspoon of salt. Okay, so we're going to set all these dry ingredients aside and we're going to do the wet. For the wet, we are going to take 4 eggs and we're going to separate the yolks and the whites. We're going to be using both. So I'm just going to separate these here. Hopefully I can do this nicely. Wrong one. Let me just pour those in there. Okay, and then pour the yolks into a separate bowl on the side here. We're going to be beating both of these. They both go into the sponge cake portion of the Yule log, but separately. So that was 2. Ooh. You can also do this with your fingers. 3. Okay. Okay, now that we got these separated, let me just move this out of the way. Okay, now we are going to take this and we're going to start beating it a little bit here. I have a whisk attachment on here. So in this one, we're going to put a quarter of a cup of sugar, regular sugar. And we're going to whisk this until it's nice and light and frothy. Okay, so with this one, now that those are whipped a little bit, I'm going to add a quarter of a cup of sugar to the egg whites as well. And then we're going to let this beat together until it's nice and frothy. Stiff, was it say stiff peaks? Let's see. Yes, until it forms stiff peaks. Okay, these are still they're starting to foam now. So this is a nice yellow, light yellow color. So now we're going to add about 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, I'm going to set this aside and we're going to wait for the meringue to turn into stiff peaks here. It's getting there. It's starting to form a bit here, so it won't be much longer. Let's look at this and see if it's close. I think it might need a little longer. Let's see. Actually, that is a stiff peak. You see how it stays nice and stiff? We're at the stiff peak stage. So that's what we want. Yeah, nice stiff peaks. Okay, just gonna get the rest off here. Okay, so let's give these an extra little mix. Okay, now we're going to fold this into the meringue. So I'm just going to pour the whole thing in. This is what's going to give the cake, the sponge cake, a really nice light texture. Okay, so to fold, come up under the bottom and fold it in like this. We're trying to keep as much of the fluffiness from the meringue as possible, but still incorporating everything. Like that. Okay, now we're going to slowly fold in the dry ingredients. So I'm just going to sprinkle some. Do the rest. And we want to do this until it's fully combined. sure it's all nice and combined. It's almost there. There's a few streaks of cocoa that I'm trying to fold in here. See what it looks like. Okay, now let's spray the pan. So this is a 10 by 15 jelly roll pan. I didn't realize this was a jelly roll pan. I've been using it for other stuff. But I have one, so I'm going to spray all the edges really well. It says you can also use parchment paper. For cakes, I tend to prefer spray. Okay, and then we're going to put this out and we're going to, oh, I got spray everywhere. We're going to spread it out everywhere. This sponge cake is meant to be nice and thin so that it can be rolled. Try to get all of it here. Okay. Now we're just going to spread it out to the sides. Make sure it's nice and even. Try not to overwork it too much so we're not losing the elasticity of the meringue that's inside. Level it out a bit. Whatever you do, do not pound on the counter. Don't bang it on the counter to level it out. That'll lose all of the lovely bubbles in the inside of the cake that make it nice and fluffy. It's one thing you never want to do when you're making cake. Okay. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, now I'm going to put this in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes at 350. You want to make sure that the sponge cake is firm in the middle, but do not overbake it, otherwise it's going to crack when we roll it. So it's very important to not overbake it. So check it between 10 and 12 minutes. Okay, so I just took this out of the oven, and to test it, you want to make sure that it bounces back. See how it bounces back? That's perfect. And this was in there for 10 minutes. Okay, so let's pull this out and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so we want to do this while it's still nice and warm. You want to put out a really clean tea towel. And then we are going to take the sponge cake. Actually, let's do it the other way. I think we're going to do it like this. I'm going to put it over top like this. I'm going to hold it tight. And then we're going to flip it out on it. Perfect. Okay, then it says to take some powdered sugar. Put some in my little sifty thing here. And you're supposed to powder the inside of it. so that when we're rolling it together, it doesn't stick together. You want to do this while the cake is still nice and warm and hot. This is actually very, very similar to making a jelly roll. It's pretty much the same thing, actually. Okay, that's good. Okay, now we're going to attempt to roll this while it's still nice and warm. You want to do this part really slowly so that the cake has time to bend. This isn't going to be the final roll anyways, so keep that in mind. Just make sure you're doing it nice and slow so that the cake has time. I can feel it. I don't feel any cracks yet. If you do get cracks, it's not the end of the world. We'll cover it with chocolate ganache later. Okay, so we're going to leave it like that while we make the filling. And it's going to hold its shape so that when we unfold it, it'll be easily rolled back up. So let's make the filling. For the filling, it's basically a whipped cream. For this, we're going to need 1 cup of heavy cream. Actually, let's do the dry ingredients first. What did I do with my little sifter? So we're going to do about a tablespoon of cocoa. I want this to be a chocolate filling. The recipe does vanilla, but I want it to be chocolate. So I'm going to do about a tablespoon of cocoa. I got this from other recipes on the ratios to use on the inside. Okay, and then about 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar. I'm going to add just a little bit because I am adding the cocoa powder. So I'm going to add an extra tablespoon. To compensate for the bitterness. You don't have to sift this part. I just figured I already had it out for the cocoa powder because I don't want it to be lumpy. So I'm just going to give this a little mix. Now we're going to do about a cup of heavy cream. Actually, we need some vanilla first. Let's do 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Okay. Cup of heavy cream. Just going to give it a nice light stir just to make sure that the cocoa powder is mixed in nicely. Okay, so I'm also going to use a little bit of whipped cream stabilizer, just because this is a dessert and I don't want the whipped cream filling to leak out everywhere. So I'm just going to add about half a package of this. It's like a whipped cream stabilizer. I want to make sure it's blending nice. So I'm just going to scrape the sides here, because this will turn into whipped cream pretty quickly. So Here we go. While this is whipping, I'm going to clean up a little bit and I will show you once it's done. Okay, so halfway through I switched to the whisk attachment. Worked a lot better. So it's a nice thicker texture. Give you a look. See? Hopefully this is enough filling for the inside. If it's not, we'll make more. Okay, so I'm going to let the cake cool just a little bit longer, and then we're going to fill it with this. This feels nice and cool, so let's try to unroll this. Looks good. Yay! I was a little worried. No, it looks good. Okay, I don't want to pull this down too much. Okay, so now we're going to take the mixture. Put it all in the inside here. I'm going to use this flat knife. I like using this for icing and whipped cream and stuff like that. So all we're doing here is we're rolling it out to a nice even layer. As even as possible anyways. I'm glad I put the stabilizer in this. I think it'll hold up a lot better. You want this to be fairly even because when you roll it up and then you cut it into slices, you don't want it to look too uneven, right? Okay, hopefully that's good. I think that's pretty decent. Make sure I get every last part in there. Okay, so I'm going to roll it back up. See how it's got the form of being rolled, so that you can roll it back up. Now it's sticking to the tea towel. Probably should have put powdered sugar on the tea towel. There we go. See, sticking on my hands here. So I got this really pretty plate, and I'm going to put it on this. Be gentle. There we go. Okay, let me go wash my hands and then we'll start making the ganache for the topping. So this is what the log looks like so far. Looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, let's make the ganache topping for the top of it. So for the ganache, I'm going to use chocolate chips. It says to use semi-sweet chocolate finely cut up. So I'm going to double the recipe just because I want it to cover all of the log, whereas in this recipe it just covered some of the log, so I'm going to want it to cover all of it. So I need 8 ounces of chocolate chips, which is about 1.5 cups when it's doubled. Turn this down just a little bit, I don't want to burn it. Just a little bit more. Okay. So about 1.5 cups of chocolate chips. If you're going to do 1 times the recipe, it would be about 3/4 cup. So because I'm doubling it, I'm going to need 2 cups of heavy cream. And then we're going to melt all this together, and it's going to turn into ganache. Okay, so I'm going to put this away, and then I'm going to get hopefully another spatula. Okay, so I realized that in one of the last videos, I broke my spatula. So I needed to get a new one here. I only have 2 now, so I'm going to have to get a couple more. I use them a lot when I'm baking. Okay, so now we're supposed to take this off the heat and let the ganache cool a little bit until it starts to thicken to a spreadable consistency. So I'm going to do that, and once it's to the right consistency, I'll come back and we'll finish decorating. I don't know about this. This texture is still quite liquidy. And this has been cooling for quite a bit. I think we're still going to use it, but I think I'm just going to be a little bit more careful, and I'm probably going to pour and then try and fill in a little bit in some of the other areas. So wish me luck, and let's see how this goes. Might become a soupy mess. I do think once it fully sets, it'll be nice and delicious. I'm gonna have to save some of this ganache for something else. The ganache does taste delicious. I tasted it. As my son would say, it's going to be in a chocolate moat. Okay, I don't know if this is going to work, but let's try. Actually, let's bring this closer. I think once I've put this in the refrigerator and let it fully set, I think it will be good. Looks delicious. I think I'm going to do one more step. I do think this is going to set nicely once I put it in the fridge. I can see it already starting to set a little bit as it's thinning. So I think I'm going to stick this in the refrigerator, and I am going to go and melt some white chocolate for us to decorate with. I think the contrast will look really pretty. I have some melted white chocolate here, and I'm going to attempt... Oh, wait. We're going to attempt to do some designs on the top here. There we go. There we go. There we go. That looks so much nicer. I'm not so worried about making it look like a tree bark. If you want to, you can, but there we go. Now I'm going to put some raspberries and some blueberries on, just to make it look extra special. I wanted to use cranberries for the top, but I have them all frozen. I use them for muffins and stuff like that a lot. Trying to make sure I position these so they don't slide off, wreck the design here. Place a few blueberries. And then I'm going to stick this in the refrigerator to set, and it'll be perfect for dessert. Oh. I love blueberries. I've been eating so many of them lately. Okay, just getting a lot nicer. Actually, I think that's good. I don't want to add too much. So I'll give you guys a closer look. So this is what it looks like. This side is a little messier than I would prefer, but it's not bad. Okay, so I'm going to put it in the refrigerator to set. That was so much fun. I really enjoyed making that. I think my family's going to be super surprised at the dessert I made them for tonight. Yeah, I'm super happy about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.